What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about my trip to Chernobyl, which was crazy. If you don't know what Chernobyl is, it was a nuclear power plant that exploded in 1986 in Ukraine and released a lethal amount of radiation that spread throughout Ukraine and parts of Europe. And a few weeks ago, I got to visit a city called Pripyat, which is right next to the nuclear power plant that exploded and is now basically abandoned. So here's what happened. When we arrived at Chernobyl, there were gates and officers and dogs. It seemed like an area that you shouldn't be entering. Some officer approached our car and he said, "Вы табаки?" which means, "Are you the Tabak family?" We said yes. He got in the van. We started to drive. We were driving into something called the zone of exclusion, which doesn't sound safe, and it didn't look safe. Now, I didn't really know anything about Chernobyl or where we were driving or what was going on, and every time I tried to ask the security guard, he wouldn't really give me any answers. He would just say things like, "This is Chernobyl, this is tree, there is lots of radiation here." He's not a tour guide. We weren't getting a tour, we were just kind of getting this exclusive experience. He took us to some sort of lot that was surrounded by abandoned buildings, and he was like, "Okay, you can go now." He told us we could just walk around the area, and when we asked if he was gonna come with us, he said no. He just wanted to sit in the car and like we could roam at our own risk. Anyway, here's the footage. So we're here in Chernobyl. We're gonna drive in right now and explore the area. We're gonna see some abandoned hospitals, some of the buildings. We're gonna see the actual plant, and then we're also gonna see a secret Soviet base. Let's go check it out. That behind me is the actual reactor that blew up here in Chernobyl. That's what blew up. It's currently covered. In this town though, there are currently 8,000 people who work here. They come for like 2 weeks and then leave. And there's basically constantly 8,000 workers who are maintaining all this waste, maintaining all the radioactivity, maintaining the entire area. And there's also 188 people who just live in the town. Right now we're on a bridge. It used to be a railroad. And this is the water that was used to cool the power plants. And they have catfish in there that are supposedly massive. Oh my God, do you see how many fish are in there? Do you see that? Look. So we just entered an abandoned town that most people aren't allowed to get into, but since we had a military official with us, he organized that we get let in. People had to leave everything here, clothes, furniture, all their books, everything was radioactive, so they couldn't take anything out of the city. It's all still here. Wow. This is insane.
Must have been a furniture store at one or something. There's an old radio.
This is just a fully abandoned building. Cash registers, radios. That noise that you hear is radioactivity. I did not know that was happening until I just rewatched the footage. It's pretty terrifying. Many people who go to Chernobyl use a radioactivity detector to know what to stay away from, what not to touch, and what's giving off a lot of radiation. I wasn't given that because we weren't on an official tour, so I guess my mic is kind of acting as the radioactivity detector. So every time my mic makes that noise, that means I'm getting close to an object that has a lot of radioactivity because it's interfering with my mic. So it seems like this was probably some sort of furniture store. They have bathtubs and desks and a bunch of just equipment. So the reason I videotaped that sign that showed Soviet pride was because my dad told me that the government completely failed these people and the people of Ukraine when this disaster happened. No reports were made directly from Chernobyl for 10 full days after the incident. A Ukrainian parliamentary commission determined that Soviet officials lied and made attempts to cover up and conceal the accident, and that everybody in power knew about the accident within 12 hours after it occurred. And right there on the top of that building it says, it used to say before the letters fell down, Slava Leninu, which means like to Lenin, a sign in support of Lenin. And then this is what happened. Things weren't regulated and disaster struck. There's trees just growing everywhere, all over the steps. This probably used to be like a little park area because there's a movie theater right there and a hotel. It's so crazy to be somewhere where something happened, like an attack happened or some sort of catastrophe, and it never got fixed, it never got taken care of. No one ever really moved back in here or turned this back into a city because they couldn't, because it was so radioactive. It was dangerous. So this is literally a ghost town. So this whole area used to be a military base. So these are all military buildings. Nobody was allowed in here except for the Soviet military. There's stop signs everywhere here. All these signs in Russian saying nobody should be walking through here. This used to be super, super, super secretive and exclusive. All this equipment was left here because it's all radioactive. They couldn't take it out. So this used to be a huge Soviet radar that could sense when missiles or planes were coming in and would report everything and track everything. Why didn't you leave the car?
Just the whole place, it's kind of very shivery. It gives you, I mean, this is scary. It's like a ghost town. You can't touch anything really, it's still radioactive. It just makes me feel uncomfortable.
After we were done walking around, my dad and I were tested for radiation, and it said my dad was contaminated. They washed all his clothes and luckily he was fine. I was clean too. These are all the first responders, the firemen who came and tried to stop the fire and control everything and fix everything. And the cleanup required over 500,000 workers, and they were also all exposed to radiation. The actual explosion caused 2 immediate deaths, 29 more people of acute radiation poisoning within the following 3 months, and it has been estimated that ultimately 50 died from acute radiation poisoning as a direct result of Chernobyl disaster. In 2005, the UN estimated that the disaster will ultimately claim 4,000 lives. Greenpeace International has estimated that this number may be as high as 90,000. Also, in just 5 years, cases of cancer among children in the Ukraine increased by 90% following the disaster. Chernobyl is considered the world's greatest nuclear catastrophe.